I took my old Cabela's 7.5 foot 5 weight and converted it into a Micro Skagit rod. Here's how I did it. I started off by heating up the end cap until the glue was loose. I pulled the cap off with a pair of pliers. Keep the end cap in case you want to convert it back to a single-hander. Also, clean the inside from loose debris and don't forget to clean the threads too. Next, I took an old broken rod and cut 5 inches off the end of the grip with a hacksaw. I cleaned it up on a disc sander just to make sure everything was nice and square. I used an old arrow shaft for the tenon. It fit perfectly inside the grip but not on the fly rod. I used a 5/16 drill bit to remount the fly rod a bit. It worked great. I checked for fitment and measured the tenon length. I had 1 3/4 inch. Then I checked the tenon length on the grip. I got 4 3/4 inch for a total of 6.5 inch tenon. I then measured and cut the arrow shaft to 6.5 inches. To quickly recap, I have a fly rod, a grip, and an arrow shaft for a tenon. This part is optional, but I decided to contour the rear grip. I used a drill for a lathe, and it worked amazing. I made a few guidelines about 2 inches apart. I then began with 60 grit sandpaper making my contours. I progressed through the grits up to 400 and called it good. Finally, it was time to glue up with 5-minute epoxy. I gave it a good stir and coated the arrow shaft. I then inserted it into the grip and cleaned the excess away. I coated the rest of the arrow shaft and inserted it into the fly rod. I gave it a twist and added a bit more epoxy for good measure. I let it sit overnight and then hit the river. I used an Airflow Skagit Scout 210 grain and it was shooting lasers in no time. Thanks for watching and keep her tight.